It's not easy to be fully present for who we are in any given moment. Even as Kenneth is singing, I have the sense that hearts are opening and closing, that there is fear and love present in this very moment. And so I want to honor our courage just for coming together this morning. The clocks have changed. Spring is here in our hearts, and we have come together with courage to remember that we are good. So let's just close our eyes for a moment, sitting and standing tall, taking our presence, owning our own spiritual authority, breathing in and out. And so it is. And so I offer that as a guest minister here today. I'm the Reverend Adam Sutton. I'm thrilled to be back. I'm thrilled beyond belief to be back. And I have to do that little quick opening for me to center myself and remember what I'm here to deliver. And what I'm here to deliver is a message that is quite simple. That at our very core, without doing anything different, without changing a bit of how we look or how we feel, we are indeed enough. We want desperately to believe this. We want so desperately to believe this that we will show up just about anywhere as spiritual seekers to find a place to remember it. So, a couple of stories. Last night I was very grateful for David and Sean's hospitality. They let me stay in their guest room at their lovely home. And as I was getting centered last night, showing up quite late from Boston, thinking about today's talk and about what I felt I was here to deliver, I thought, well, I'll watch a little television for a few minutes. So I ended up watching a lot of television for a little bit more than a few minutes. They have cable TV. I do not. I don't have cable TV for a reason. Yeah. And we'll talk about addiction in another sermon, in another conversation. But I will tell you what I was drawn to on cable television. What I was drawn to out of, I have no idea how many hundreds of channels there were or are. I was drawn to the FX channel, and I was drawn to a couple of different movies, but the one that caught my eye was the X-Men, right? So I was drawn to this because many of us are drawn to the hero's myth, to superheroes for a reason. I believe it's because we believe at our core that we aren't enough. And so I'm watching this and I'm thinking, oh God, I wish I looked like that. Oh God, I wish I could do that. Storm, there's a character, I don't know if you know X-Men. She's beautiful, she's stunning. Oh, and at one point she's rising up the top of Manhattan and she's got a thunderstorm happening around her, and I thought, I've always wanted to control the weather. That is my dream. How amazing that would be. And she shoots lightning bolts and the bad guy falls into the sea. And I was overtaken with this belief that once again, I needed to find my superpowers. I needed to do something different. I needed to shift my energies in a way that somehow let me know that I was enough. So I left that channel and I watched HGTV and I watched TLC and I watched every other acronym cable channel you could possibly imagine, all in search of finding a reflection that said that I was enough. But instead, what I found was the opposite. What I found were all sorts of interesting reflections that said back to me, you've got to be different, you've got to grow, you've got to have more hair, less fat, you've got to have more muscle, less whatever. And so I wasn't exactly full when I went to bed that night. Last night I was not full with the feeling that I was enough. I went to bed hungry for the understanding that all is already enough. What I have found over about 15 years of preaching and having conversations like this all over the country is that there is at our core a desperate desire to know ourselves as good, as God. I love this congregation. I love Sean. Sean brings the clarity and understanding that there is nothing you need to do different today. That just as you are sitting here, you have all the skills, capabilities necessary to go out into the world and serve. So a lot of what I do in the world day to day is I work as a corporate coach and a trainer. I work for large corporations and small schools. And I sit with people and help them understand how to feel enough. Now, I might speak through a New Thought lens, but I translate for different audiences, just as you might translate when you're at a cocktail party and somebody says, "What did you do on Sunday morning?" And you said, "Oh, I was at this place called Unity Center for Practical Spirituality." And I don't know if you've ever had this response, but oftentimes the response is, "What? What's that? What's unity? What's practical spirituality?" I'll tell you what practical spirituality is. Practical spirituality is sitting with a group of 20 managers for a very large multinational conglomerate on Thursday afternoon in Schenectady. Sitting with them in dissension and frustration, long-standing frustration, listening to 7 of them talk about how the other 8 on the team, there were 15 total, hadn't done what they needed to do to get the work done in the last 2 years, and boy, were they angry. And we sat together for long enough to understand that what they really needed to get beyond was their own ego mind. The ego mind that says, "I am separate. I am out here, you are out there," and somehow our work to connect and to be whole with one another is disconnected. And what disconnects us is this belief that something has to change for us to get through the day. So how this plays out in the boardroom, and many of you have experienced this in your workplaces, is that people are constantly in a place of proving. So I wonder, again, let me ask you just to close your eyes. Imagine a day from start to finish during which you had absolutely nothing to prove. And as our friend and teacher David Friedman would say, now just feel your sensations. Let yourself feel whatever you are feeling as you are imagining the possibility that you are indeed enough. You can open your eyes and come back. My belief is that our need to prove disconnects us from our source and from God. A couple of weeks ago, when I was watching the service for Whitney Houston, and as somebody who grew up with Whitney's music throughout the 80s and 90s, I had this question in my mind as a minister watching this beautiful service. I think I watched all 4 hours, and people paying tribute. No one actually talked about the problem. No one owned the fact that though I did not know her personally, I know a lot of people who have lived a life through struggle and addiction, every morning trying to look in the mirror and feel like they are enough. 4 hours of tribute, 30 or 40 ministers, 3 or 4 choirs. And no one actually was able to courageously say, how do we help each other to remember that we are enough as we are in this moment and that we can serve brilliantly and beautifully? Just remember Whitney Houston's voice, the clarity and the love that she came to express. Cut short, I believe, though I did not know her personally, by this inability to know through the haze of confusion, through what we call this haze of disconnection, this fog of not enoughness. And when it plays out at its height, it moves us into fear and addiction, into running, into breaking off relationships, into leaving this room today after having experienced the presence of God and owned it in one another and been grateful at our core. And we walk out into downtown Norwalk and someone pisses us off. And within 10 minutes, we are back to this dance of inauthentic disconnection, to this trance of unworthiness. What do we do about that? How do we help our sisters and our brothers understand that they are enough? How do we reflect it for one another more powerfully so that we don't lose another angelic voice? I'm not sure I know the answer to the how, but I will tell you that in every piece of spiritual writing across millennia, in every bit of text that you might study, if you happen to go to seminary or to graduate school, take a class here, go online, go to Unity Village, we're all in the same seeking place. We're all in this search of trying to understand something that will finally allow us to wake up in the morning, feel our feet on the ground, look in the mirror and say, I'm enough. Right now, today, I'm enough. And I can offer my open heart to the world regardless of what gets reflected back. I'm trying to learn these things, but I do it very lightly. So I talk about holding lightly to life when I teach, when I work with groups, when I work with myself and stand in front of the mirror and I'm struggling. This morning I came in and I was in the bathroom around the corner here, and I thought, okay, we made it here from Boston, we got the jacket, we got the shirt, it's going on, and suddenly I was stopped in my tracks. And I realized there are 3 hairs growing out of the left-hand part of my forehead here that are longer than any other hair on my head. And I thought, I can't go on. There's no way. And I'm thinking about tweezers for a moment, and I'm thinking they're all going to notice. Now you will. Staring at you will not see this unless you are, with a magnifying glass. But guess what? All I could focus on after that moment were the 3 hairs coming out of the side of my head that I wished were as long as the rest of the hair. We have this trance of unworthiness that can come back in a heartbeat. And I think the only way through it, because we do not get over it, we only move through it. The only way through it is to show up at places like this, to surround ourselves with friends, loved ones, readings, movies, books, that remind us that we are brilliant and perfect as we are. They're out there. You all came together on a stunningly perfect Sunday morning. I am amazed at your courage and capability to show up here and to be seen. That's really all that's necessary, is that you look for ways to have that reflected to you. So I finally, a couple of years ago, realized that I needed to leave my position as parish minister of a congregation in the Boston area, a Unity congregation, for one reason alone. I realized that there was not space for the love romantic relationship that I had hungered for so many years. And I gave the board notice that I was not renewing my contract on a Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, I got an email from someone on Match.com, 2 hours. Space open for grace. And I've been with that person ever since. And this morning I got a text. And I sent him a text and I said, okay, full steam ahead, paying attention to my sensations. I love that place, they love me, I'm sick to my stomach again. I text very quickly, this was all over text. Some version of that. And I got back, you are loved, you are enough, I'm with you, go for it. You need... Thank you, and thank him. I will tell you that each and every one of you needs some way to find that reflection. And romantic love and connection is only one way. But what you need to be able to do, this is practical spirituality applied to day-to-day living. You need, as servants of love, to be able to figure out how to go and find those reflections to remind you of your good. Because you have work to do here. You have work to do. We cannot let another sister like Whitney leave us. We cannot let another 16-year-old boy in Idaho decide that because somebody bullied him intensely, that he was going to take his own life. We cannot lose anyone else. Our lives on this planet are too precious. The only way I know how to remember that I am enough is to seek out that reflection. It is everywhere. Rarely do we feel like it's inside. So that's hardcore, real, practical spirituality for you. This is not an affirmation. I am enough, I am enough, I am enough, I am enough, and then I look in the mirror and I say, BS, you kidding me, I am not enough. What about these 3 hairs? What about this 20 pounds? What about the fact that I used to be able to notch this just once? Okay, how interesting. What about that? What do I make of that? I take it in, I move through it, I hold on to it, and then this morning, I do fill up. And I look out at a beautiful Connecticut morning, and I say, I'm enough. Enough to come here and do this with you. And that's all that's necessary. You already have the script memorized to go on the stage of your life today and be who you need to be, without any other degrees, without any other studying, without any other course of understanding. As you are today, you are stunning, beautiful, and ready. I invite you to step into your own reflection of good by knowing at your core to look beyond what's in the mirror, to see only your open heart, and to share that with the world. We are way too hungry to have you do anything less. And I would invite you now into a moment of really owning that by closing your eyes. Let us together come into a space of quiet and calm. Let us know in this moment that all we are is all we need to be, now and forevermore. Let us know that every step of our journey to this moment in time has been perfect and in service of our service. Let us breathe in and out, and in and out, simply inviting ourselves to rest in our own comfort, to know that God as source, light, spirit, kindness, and goodness is our true reflection, and there is more than enough. And that all we need do in any moment is sit like this, simply noticing our breath coming in and flowing out. Nothing to do, nothing to fix, nothing more to understand or figure out. All is well. And I invite you to take your hands and place them on your own heart, breathing in and out, allowing the warmth of your hands to return your own loving presence back to your heart, breathing in and out, charging your heart with an even greater sense of love and purpose and care. Taking care of yourself so that you may heal the world through your own healing presence. Breathing in and out, at rest, at peace, enough as you are. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. In my hour of darkness, she is standing there in front of me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. We are all the answer if we let it be. We are all the answer if we let it be. And so it is.